Hey everybody, Clayton here at etrailer.com. Here at eTrailer, we install, test, and review a lot of different products to help you as a customer make a more educated decision before your purchase. Today, we're going to be working on a 2019 Ford Expedition. We're going to be taking a look at, and I'll be showing you how to install, the Roadmaster Brake-Lite relay. You might be asking yourself, why do I have to have this brake-light relay? And the main reason is that our brake lights are going to override our turn signals. And we don't want that because everybody behind us isn't going to know our intentions, because especially with a vehicle this big, they're not going to be able to see the lights on the motorhome. Now we do want to make sure that we're traveling safely, so being able to see our turn signals even when we're pressing the brakes is going to be a needed feature. We're going to do a little before test to show you why we need our brake light relay. If you take a look at the motorhome, you can see we have the left turn on and our brakes being applied, but back here on our vehicle, we're only going to see the brake light. So this is why we need that relay, because our brake lights are going to override our turn signals and everyone's not going to be able to see our intentions. And with our brake light relay installed, you can now see that our left turn is working even when the brakes are being applied. One feature that I like about our kit is that it is going to work with either turn key or push to start, so it's really going to work with any option that you might have. And everything is going to be included with our kit to get it installed. And that's pretty nice because we're not going to have to hunt down any extra parts. With that being said, let's head in the shop and I'll walk you through the installation now. To begin our install, we need to determine our ignition source. Now we are going to have a push button start in this case, so we're going to be using our blue wire. But if you do have a turn key, you're going to be using the green wire. So since we are going to be using the blue wire, I'm just going to cut this green wire off. Now we're going to have 4 wires off of our relay that we're going to be connecting. Our white wire is going to go to ground. Our black and our blue can be interchanged to the hot or the cold side of our stoplight switch on our vehicle. And the red wire is going to get teed in to our taillight signal from the diodes. To determine the location of your stoplight switch, you're going to come to your brake pedal. Once you're down at your brake pedal, you're going to follow that up. There's going to be a plug that has 4 wires going into it, and we can just undo that plug to make it a little bit easier to work. Right here is going to be that switch, so we'll push in on this tab. It is kind of tight down here, so just take your time. There's going to be a tab right here we're going to push in on, and we're going to pull that whole assembly up and out. To give us a little bit more room to work, I'm just going to pull out this under dash panel. You can tilt up your steering wheel. Once you have your steering wheel tilted, we're just going to pull out on this panel very carefully. We can just lower that down. With that panel lowered down, we're going to have 4 10mm nuts we're going to be removing, 2 down here on the bottom, then 1 up on each corner. Then we can just unclip all of our electrical connectors here. Once you have all these undone, you can just set this off to the side. This is going to be our plug. If you look at the wires coming out of the plug, there's going to be a violet with a white stripe. That's the wire we're going to be using. We then need to cut back all of this sheathing and protective coating on that wire so we have room to work. And here's what that wire is going to look like once we get that cut out. I always like to cut a little bit extra just so we have more room to work. We can now grab our relay. We're going to pull the pre-stripped area back from that black wire. Just going to give it a little twist. Then I'm actually going to trim a little bit of it shorter. Give that another twist. You can grab one of our blue butt connectors, slide that over the wire, and crimp it down. And we'll do that same thing for the blue wire. We now want to grab our snips. We're just going to cut back that purple and white wire. Then we're going to strip back both ends and add our butt connectors. It is going to be hard to see, so we'll catch up with you after. Now we have our blue wire connected to that purple and white wire along with our black wire. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug this back in, and then we'll locate a ground. Now I want to pull back the covering on the end of our white wire. I'm going to just double that over to give us a solid ground. We can grab one of our ring terminals, slide that over the wire, then we'll go ahead and crimp it down. Located right here is going to be the factory ground I'm going to use. We'll just use a 13mm socket to remove that nut. Once we get that nut off, we'll just take our ring terminal, slide that over, and reinstall that nut. Now I just want to pull the end off of our red wire. We'll twist that together, double it over. Then I just found some extra red wire we had laying around, but if you don't have any at home, you can find some wire here at eTrailer. I just added a butt connector to that. We'll slide a red wire into that butt connector and crimp it down. Now we just want to run this red wire through the firewall. I'm just going to run it along our braking system wire. That way it stays together. This next step is going to be very dependent on where you have your diode wiring. Now ours is going to run from the plug right up this way, up to our, kind of up by our grommet there, then go down the firewall. I'm actually going to take this wire and backtrack towards the plug, because it's going to be easier to make our connection down here. So I'll go ahead and do it and then show you the route we took. Our red wire comes down right here, and then we just followed that diode wiring up this way. Just ran a couple zip ties to help support it. That way it's not going to shift around anywhere. And this is where our brown wire is going to come out by our plug. We just want to grab our snips, we'll just cut that wire there and strip back both ends. We do want to strip them back pretty far since we are going to be using a yellow heat shrink butt connector. The side coming from our plug, we're just going to use one wire. So we'll twist that, then double it over. Then since this is going to be exposed, I'm going to use a heat shrink butt connector, and you can find these here at eTrailer. We'll slide that into our butt connector, crimp it down. And then for the other side, we're going to take that brown wire and our red wire and twist them together. Once that's twisted, we do need to cut off a little bit of the excess. And that's just going to get added to the other side of our butt connector. Now we can grab our heat source, come back and shrink it down. With that shrunk down, we can now come back with some electrical tape just to help clean up this wiring. If you do need electrical tape, you can find some here at eTrailer. Once we get that all tidied up, I just ran some zip ties to help clean up our wiring. It was hanging down a little bit. Anything you can do to make that cleaner is going to make it a lot better down the road. Just grab our relay and push that into the other side of it. So our red wire comes out of our firewall back here. You can't really see it, but it runs under all these components. It then comes out right down here by our diode wiring. And we'll just run that down. Now I just want to reinstall all of our dash components in the reverse order we took them apart. And that's going to do it for our look at and our installation of Roadmaster's Brake-Lite relay on our 2019 Ford Expedition.